Let me just welcome you here. I have got to know you and your brother and the family or whatever throughout my time here in Northwest Indiana. You're probably one of the most region-connected people there could be. Tell me about it, what it's like to grow up and be a region guy.
Oh man, I think when you're here, you don't. There's always that when you're growing up, right? You're like, okay, I can't wait to get out of here. Or, I'm looking forward to get to Chicago. And, I went to school down in Bloomington, and then having moved up to Chicago, it was like, I'm going to be a Chicago guy. I can't wait to be a Chicago guy. Lived up in Chicago for a couple of years, and then around that time was actually when Tom started to want to run. Well, he decided to run for office for mayor. So I was actually living in Chicago and coming back out here to help with Tom's campaign. And it was just one of those things where as much fun as I was having in Chicago, it was just, you have your family here, you have your friends here. And I really did love Northwest Indiana and do love Northwest Indiana. So it was just a natural fit to, end up moving back here. And, you're still around family and friends. And, it just became a comfort level where, I think you learn, when you get good at something, that's when you really enjoy it,
Yep.
So it's like the more I got to know, I was always great in Lake County when I was 16 years old. We just do nothing but drive around Lake County. So, it was just a natural fit to get into real estate, I feel like,
You knew all those places.
I knew all the places
checked
anyway.
them all out.
Yeah. When you're scouting for girls, when you're 16, 17 years old, now you know the back roads and know the neighborhoods. And I was doing mortgage brokering and went to get my real estate license because I just wanted to meet realtors getting in the business. Okay. So realized how much I hated doing mortgages shortly thereafter. And then shortly after that, I realized how much I hated doing residential part. So myself and another gentleman started up a commercial division within his franchise, and then just always had that inkling, I feel like, to get into just entrepreneurial with my dad and his background, and having, he owned numerous businesses throughout Northwest Indiana, besides being obvious mayor of Hammond for a while. So I don't know, you just, I always thought I was going to live in Chicago and be a Chicago guy, but you have your family and friends are just very comfortable out here. So
well, I was a Chicago guy, and I definitely know what it's like to move to Northwest Indiana and just, in my case, and just embrace the heck out of it.
Yeah.
You got lower taxes, better quality of life, nicer way of living, much less crowded, much less stressful. You could, the schools are great. Yep. Everything about it is
and you can still go to Chicago.
Yeah, and you can still go to Chicago anytime you want.
Yeah, anytime you want. It's nice, quick, easy. I'm still up in Chicago quite a bit, so.
What is the entrepreneurial spark that you wanted to satisfy? It sounded like you could have gone along in your kind of a career, working for somebody else, but there was something that you just said, no, I want to control my own destiny.
Yeah, I don't think I'm employable by anyone else.
Okay. That's what I use for me. Right? It's like, I know I would never hire me.
Yeah, so that's what I say to this day.
Unless I keep myself employed, I'm not going to have a job.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, I don't feel like I followed direction very well with other people. I always had a mindset of, okay, this is how I envision things. This is how I can work, and I don't feel like I ever fit in that corporate mindset where I would be good at, having a certain hierarchy above me to listen. And, half those guys, I don't want to say half because it probably is more than half sometimes. They're just career corporate guys that have got up there for nothing better than they've just been there long enough. So I just never fit that corporate mindset, I don't feel like. And I always like to grow something from the beginning. I just, that the whole experience of my first job, my first real job, I call it, when I got into real estate, was helping create a commercial division. So it was like, oh, this is, there was nothing there. We helped grow this commercial division. It was, we were starting to get traction, and then I had the opportunity to go.
You were building something.
Yeah, building something. It's building something. It's, doing things the way you envision, how you want to do it. And it was a quality of life thing too, for as much as, I liked making money, I also, enjoyed having fun with family and friends. And, there's always a work-life balance for me too. So
how have you grown you speak a lot about growth. How have you grown through having to do all that?
Oh yeah, it's a good question.
It's not just Aaron.
You're doing it right
Aaron
now,
and
right?
somebody else.
Yeah,
You got a whole team of people.
Yeah, and you've done the same thing. I think it's just it's a mindset of like, okay, how can the company actually be a company versus like Aaron McDermott's brokerage firm? It's like, okay, well, you have to put certain people in places, and you have to give up control of certain things. You have to, stop. You have to look at the big picture. Is like, okay, how is this going to survive after me? But when I do retire, is the company gone, or do I want to see it, continuing on through, generationally, or, to my other partners, so you have to set up things in that way, and just be able to give up control too. So that's definitely a tough thing to do, is to.
I'm great at it, by the way.
Right?
Like,
I'm
I know
sure
no one here would really.
I see that help Chris be lesser. I noticed on the wall. I don't know. That's.
They were setting up for this shoot, and Jenny was actually just showing from a framing standpoint, like how to make sure the guest is the priority and not so much on Chris. And we have sort of a running rivalry where she's constantly trying to knock me out of the business, and
I can see that
really push me on. And I think it's probably evident to everybody.
I thought she was actually going to do the podcast, so I'm surprised you're even here.
Yeah, no, I started crying.
Yeah,
right.
Come
on,
I can't leave.
Now you're replacing me. We were out at WNDU yesterday in South Bend, and we got a tour of the studio and got to hang out or whatever. And seeing her up on set, in front of a TV set, I'm like, I lost her. Like, she's gone.
No.
But yeah, so she would like to help me be lesser.
Yeah.
Overall.
But that's, hey, how can you?
I love it.
Yeah, right. I know you have to get to that mindset too, right? So like, how is the company? Are you going to be 80 years old doing this?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to be able to do the same things I can do and be ahead of the curve and bring these certain like people in, do the technologies and do the things that help grow the company when I'm halfway checked out because I'm in, like Tahoe for 2 months out of the year, or, wherever else I plan on wanting to try to get to. So you can't have a company continuing on if you don't have the mindset of like, eventually I want to be here, or eventually I want to spend less time here, or I want my kid to get in the business or something like that. So it's giving up control and being comfortable with that control, or lack thereof.
What kind of people allow you to give them that authority? Because it's not easy. It's
definitely not easy. Yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to. There's a great book I read about this naval admiral captain. My brother will kill me for not knowing that exactly, but it's called "It's Your Ship," and it was just a great book. It was like, just having the faith in the people that you hire. I think there's a gut when you hire somebody. Like, there's a certain level of trust you have to have. You brought this person in for a reason. You have this gut feeling about them. Like, okay, and I always say it's your ship. Like, I don't need to know like every single thing. I trust that you're going to handle this the way that you would think I would want this handled. So, it's just having the faith in the people that you hire, and hopefully you made that right decision, and you brought in the person that's going to execute your vision of what you think would be the right thing to do.
Well, I know I'm a learning in process person, as it's really hard to give up control because you know exactly how you want it to get done. But if you hire strong enough people that basically continue to push you out of the way, I think it could be a great balance, because you want the vision of what you have. You don't want it to be any different. But you don't want to necessarily have to be the one that it depends on for every single step.
And it's not perfect. It's obviously never going to be perfect. It's never going to be exactly how you thought it would be, but you have to accept that too. It's like, okay, things aren't going to work out perfectly, and they probably wouldn't have worked out perfectly if you were doing it either, but maybe it gives you an excuse to say, well, you should have did this way. You're like, oh wait, it's like the Monday morning quarterback.
As you were growing up, what taught you that edge, that competition?
It was a lot of sports. It's a lot of parenting. My dad was always hard on us. Just making sure that, we got good grades. We were going to class and doing, studying and whatnot. And then, I love sports. It's like, I was, in high school, I was in a number of different sports, and, I just love watching sports. So I think it's that competitiveness that it kind of drive it definitely drives you. It's, you got to have that inner drive too, but I feel like you always have that mentality, like half the people don't even know I'm competing with them.
Yeah.
But I'm competing with them in every little thing, whether it's I'm driving down the road or whether I'm going after a listing, whether it's in guys in my own office. It's like there's an inner competitiveness that you have to have within yourself to be able to like say, okay, I got to get this done better, or I gotta win this assignment.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I do all the right things to get it done. So I don't know. I don't know if that was inherited or if it's just, and it's not just my family, right? I've got clients that I've grown around, like some just incredible entrepreneurs when I'm, first in this business, just to be around and watch how they grew from, that, and that's probably one of the best things is, when I got in this business to watch, a guy that grew from 1 unit to 20 units of a certain restaurant, or watch this small business become 20 years later, they come back to me, they're multi millionaires, or even watch the guys that were successful sell out and be able to retire at a young age. And it's just trying to pick up on everyone. It's adapting and learning, like, oh man, that's a great way to handle business, and to be able to like relay that to other businesses. It's like, okay, well, I've learned all this stuff.
Learn?
Yeah, it's always learning. You're always learning.
It's like a real world MBA that you can have, but you have to actually be paying attention. And I look at it as every person we're interviewing or every person I get to meet, you're just like a sponge.
Yeah.
Okay, what can I learn from that particular person? And it doesn't mean whatever I'm going to learn from you says, oh my gosh, I want to be exactly like you. No, I see this, that, and the other thing. So if I could learn that from you, and if I could learn these 3 things from that guy, and these 2 things from that woman, and these 2 other things from that other lady, you could actually be really, really smart by just paying attention.
Yeah. You're like, if only I could execute it that way too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, oh.
I have the best desire for knowledge, the ability to ingest that and actually change how you behave. That's a challenge.
Well, that's how you get the right people in place, right? You get the right people that help you execute that vision, or say, hey, this is how they're doing it. How can we morph that into our business? And that's like, sometimes it's how big do you want to grow? It's like, how big can you grow, and how much are you willing to sacrifice? Because it is a sacrifice, obviously. There's days away from family, there's hours, missing practices or missing games. Are you willing to sacrifice? And that's where, hopefully the next generation or my, next partners are willing to go, because it's like, okay, there's a lot of opportunity out. I think we've created a great model in our company. It's, how much farther can it go? Because I've got a vision that I know we can go. It's, who's going to take the reins to go to the next office, the next market, or, meanwhile,
you don't want to run up the next hill and then turn around and you're like, wait, are you guys coming?
Yeah, because it's a big hill.
Exactly.
I don't know if
I didn't bring any water. And I thought somebody would be bringing water.
I'm 45 years old. I can't climb the mountain like I was when I was 30.
And I'm 58, so I definitely know what you're thinking about. Who's made an impact on you?
Oh man, I don't know if I want to get too specific, but there's definitely
what kinds of people have made it.
Yeah, I think it's always a small business guy. It's always, because that's, we deal with some big corporate, users. We've dealt with Fortune 500 companies, but it's mostly been, had the luxury of being around franchisees or even, just a small business owners. So I've had
somebody that's putting their nuts on the line.
Yeah.
And if this succeeds, they're going to do well, and if it doesn't, they're going to do really poorly.
Yeah. They really put like, I don't know, there's a certain guy that started a gym. I don't know how much I want to put out there. But, he was the one that actually helped start up my business. And I remember this story. He told me, he's like, he was a college dropped out of college, and he wanted to open up his first gym, and his dad refinanced his house to give him money to start up this gym. And he's like, listen, I was literally living at the gym some nights because I didn't want to come home, and my dad, he would never say anything, but he would look at me like, why are you home so early?
Yeah.
So he would literally live at the gym just to make sure it succeeded. And I think when I met him, he had maybe 3 full service restaurants at the time. He ended up building it up to around 7 restaurants, sold them off to corporate. He's developing high rises in Indianapolis now, and he really helped me get started in my business. And he's just a great friend and a great client, and I just haven't. And that's one example. And then another one is one of my current partners that helped me buy my first property with him. He allowed me to bring in my commission on the first deal. I had a vision on the property we found, and just for him to be able to have the faith in me. I was, I don't know how old I was. I can tell you I was early on in with Latitude, so it was probably 12 years ago. Helped me buy my first piece of real estate, and he's been my partner every single deal since then.
That's awesome.
So yeah. I mean, I see the checks he gets every month, and he knows I see the checks every month, so I know he's happy at how successful we've been in some of the purchases that we made.
But ultimately, he had faith in you.
Yeah,
He had to extend some risk, some faith, some. I got confidence in him. You mentioned before, it's a gut feel. I got a gut feel about this guy. I think he's going to do well.
And to the point about the first guy, I just taking that in and being like, okay, well, he made that sacrifice in me. I'm gonna bust my ass. I'm not going to fail. There's no way I'm gonna give up like that. And that was one thing, and probably still is about me, is that there's no there's no way I'm gonna fail. There is no way I'm giving up. I'm gonna die
eat your own
this.
hand. Before you're gonna start.
For sure. Yeah, I will make sure everyone else is paid, and I'll go under before I let something happen. So,
how do you hire a bunch of not young but younger developing professionals, and you grow them? How do you teach that old school mentality?
I think it's
without overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I just think you try to lead by example. I still try to be the first one and last one to leave every day. So even I think you lead by example, and I've got the right managers, and they know how I want things done. They know how you should treat your client and how you should It's easy in our business to stick a sign in front and then cross your fingers.
Yeah,
it's harder to make the phone call to not just send out the email, but to make the phone call to say, hey, we've got a spot. Is this right for you? So to always push to say, hey, if you're going to do it, you got to be different, because anybody in this business could stick a sign out front and then hope everyone does the same thing for the most part. We have all the right systems. Plant the sign and pray. Put it on the databases. Anybody can do that. It's, how do you take it to the next level? How are you active in the community? How are you going to the networking meetings? How are you promoting yourself? How are you writing articles that are relative to people? How are you dealing with that client when they call in? Are you helping them? For the guy that comes in, you need to be an advisor. There's, it's very salesman-y in a certain aspect, but you have to be great at what you do. You have to be able to help these people, because at the end of the day, this is somebody's financial career. This is somebody's financial savings that's on the line too. So take that incredibly seriously. Last thing you want to do is whatever, our listing's overpriced, you're over going to pay, but I get a commission out of it, so I'm good. So I just, those
doesn't last.
No, they're out of the business.
Makes your commission check this month.
They're out of the business,
last.
and that's great, because there's enough trash in our business anyway with people that don't know what they're doing. They try to do this. So
well, I would guess there's also probably even more so on the retail side or residential side, but probably on the commercial side as well. When there's low or zero interest rates, everybody in the world's trying to get in on the transaction volume and saying, "Oh my God, I'm putting up my shingle. I'm a realtor."
Oh yeah, for sure.
And whether it's commercial or residential, I think some of that stuff will get cleaned out.
Yeah,
where some challenging economic times will say, "Oh no, who's really supposed to be in this business?"
Yeah, because you're really doing and I get so frustrated every day. Not maybe every week. I see I get a report of every listing that hits the market. I see something. I'm like, oh my God, it's so overpriced. They get no chance of selling it. Well, it's great to think you've got that listing, but you've got an owner here that's coming to you as a professional, and they're looking to you for advice. Like, what's this property worth? Well, you get somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. They're like, oh, what do you think it's worth? Let's just say you got $1 million. Yeah, $1 million. Your property is worth $600,000. Well, what's that mortgage? What's that mortgage payment this guy's paying? because the property is going to sit. It's going to sit. So you're paying debt service. You're paying debt service. Odds are somebody's, if they're selling it, they've got an issue. You know, I always say I'm a problem fixer. I've got to come in, there's a problem. They either have to sell the business because they have to expand, they have to find a business. Well, this person's clearly got an issue they're coming to you with. So how are you doing the right thing for your client? If you've got an overpriced listing, it's not going to sell. You know what happens to that guy? He gets taken over by the bank. So now you got a foreclosure. Did you, were you doing the right thing by your client, or were you doing the right thing because you got $1 million listing and you're looking at like the commissions that you're going to get paid? So that's where I get very frustrated with some of the, I call them residential people that get in our business and try to do the business. And
I've sold 3 houses, so now I want to get into commercial.
Right. You sold the house, and now you're going to do the business. Well, the code of ethics in real estate says that, you should be an expert, and it's kind of like stay in your lane. So you should do what you're kind of trained for. Well, people don't always abide by the code of ethics, and you can smell them right away. Oh yeah, because the first you'll take a phone call. The first question is, what's the price? Second question is, what's my commission? You're like, oh my God. Okay, we know what your priorities are. Yeah.
Zero. That's what I want.
Yeah, because you're not going to sell it anyway. So what's it matter? So
tell me about the various divisions. It all part of a commercial orientation, but tell me about each of the segments.
Yeah, so we've got retail division, which handles think about consumer to business. So, restaurant, retailer, daycare, stuff like that. Then we've got the office division, professional office, medical office space. Then we've got industrial and industrial, which handles, the warehouse of the world. Investment services, which handles investment property like fully leased strip malls, just any kind of property that has tenants that people are buying for investment purposes. And then our property management division, which basically acts as the landlord's representation, collecting rents, paying bills, getting contracts, bidding contracts, and
I've seen pictures online where your guys are out there shoveling snow off of roofs.
Such a great video.
I saw that.
We don't recommend that.
I would say you probably don't even want your guys doing it very much. But incredibly impressive the lengths that they'll go to say, hey, listen, this has to do with the success of listing this property. Like we gotta, or managing the property. Like we gotta get up on the roof and fix it.
Yeah, you put the right people in the right places, and we've got a great property management. So I, along with some of my investors, we own a number of buildings. Well, I don't even manage my properties. I, pay my own group to manage our properties because I'm the last person you want managing a property. So I'm just, too scattered. I know where my strengths are, and they're in the right lane. They do everything, so it makes it really easy. I make the bigger decisions, but for the most part, I don't even hear about light bulb being placed or a sidewalk that needs fixed, or the snow plowing. What were the 5 snow plowing bids? What were the 5 landscaping bids that we had? And they're like, okay, well, based off of this, I'll have some input. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I'm like, hey,
micromanaging that stuff.
What's it matter?
And they're honestly, if they can put the time and attention to it, they're probably better at it than you are.
Oh, absolutely, they're much better at it.
What makes a Latitude person?
Oh man, a lot of it. So I know it's easy to say culture, but it really does have to be a culture fit for us. I think if there was a common theme within our organization, it's charitable, willing to give back to the community, self-drive, because I'm not going to be the one micromanaging you to push you, and ethical. I think there's like three main things. Like those are the 3 things. You do what you're saying you're going to do. You do it, in the right way. You're willing to, make some sacrifice in the community. We go out and do charitable things, and you need to be able to survive in this business, because a lot of it is whatever you put in. This is the one business where whatever you put into this business, you're going to get back. So if you're not putting anything in this business, you're not going to make any money, and I don't even have to get rid of you, because you're just going to get out of the business yourself. So it makes it easy, because
you're going to either feel uncomfortable or not make much money at it, and either one of those will lead to you doing what you need to do.
Yep. Makes it easy for not having to get rid of people for the most part. So
tell me about what is it that you love about the region? I'm coming from another area of the state, or I'm coming from out of state, and I say, I'm thinking about moving here. I'm thinking about putting a headquarters or a manufacturing facility. What is it about the region I'm going to love?
I think a lot of it's, proximity to a major metropolitan area. I mean, for as much bad rep that Chicago gets, it's still it's a world-class city. It's one of the greatest cities.
It's not just a great
in the
national
world.
city, it's a great global city.
Yeah, so you've got the ability you still, believe it or not, you can pull a labor force from out of Chicago to work here. You still have the advantages of being close to Chicago. And then there's just, the natural resources we have around here, the lake, the dunes. I'd like to say the weather, but, the weather's nice in the summer. We don't have to worry about how about no natural disasters?
Yep, no natural disasters, no hurricanes.
No hurricanes.
We get a lot of snow, but so what? Snow
it's that Midwest attitude too. I think, you got a lot of more down to earth people, I feel like,
People
there's
are
like
a little bit more scrappy.
Yeah, they're scrappy. You've got there's a lot of people that just drive, we're a lot of like mill families and, blue collar, hardworking, get in what you put in, type of attitude. And, it's a great melting pot too, right? We've got just a great mix of demographics here too, which I love. I just love that I love the diversity of Northwest Indiana. I love, the food, the culture. There's just so much to like. No, I don't know. And there's a lot of familiarity with Northwest Indiana. I know it, and I know all the people around it. I think that I like that part about it too. It's being around friends and family that you've known for my whole life, 30 years, 40 years. Being around here, and they're still around. I've got friends from high school still. I live a block down from one of my best friends. So
really,
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, from high school. So middle school. So yeah.
We were touching earlier on a personal level, when you get around the McDermott Thanksgiving or Christmas table, my guess is there's a little banter that happens back and forth. Who takes the lead? Who goes for the jugular?
I don't know if there's a lead taker. It's just somebody plants the seed, and then it's a one-up. I think
everybody
gets
fertilizes
really dark.
it.
Yeah, everyone fertilizes it. It can get pretty dark. And I think that's how it ends. It's like, okay, who went there? Like, oh, I don't know where I can go from there without, getting canceled in my own family,
Without somebody turning the table
Yeah,
over
you're
and
like, oh
walking
my
out.
gosh, did he really just say that? And it's usually one of the wives that are like, okay,
Enough.
relax. Yeah.
Pass the stuff.
Yeah. But it was, growing up with my dad was just always, he was always like giving us crap, just, and in a fun way,
And I think it toughened you up.
It definitely did. Well, to be frank, just living in when I was, I think 5 years old when my dad became mayor. So you really learn how to toughen up when you're reading news articles or, I'd take phone calls at the house, like with, disgusting comments, and they don't care. Like, it's a kid, who cares? I'm just gonna blast whoever answers his phone. Like, somehow they got the mayor's home phone, and they just have all that pent up anger. And I think you learn to not take things too seriously. You just have thick skin and realize what's important, and who's important in your life, and where to
how much value to put on somebody's communication, to say you've got the free right to say what you're saying. I don't necessarily have to give it a lot of weight.
Yep, exactly.
I can look the other way.
Yeah, and now, like, oh my God, with social media, it's even like amplified more. To like read the comments, and I think if I had not grown up in that family, to like be a first time mayor or first time congressman or first time whatever's family member, to like see that, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'd be able to take that, because I think there's a tendency for people to really take, and it's funny because I'll have, I know so many people that get into politics, and my first thing is, why?
Why? Yeah.
Like, are you serious? The pay sucks. and
the hours are often terrible.
Are awful.
Everybody thinks they're your boss.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they're going to
absolutely.
criticize
And they're going to tell
you
you that they're your boss too.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Like, we don't, we don't pay our politicians enough. I know people think, oh, they make so much money. It's like, okay, like
in the private sector, they would make double.
Yeah,
triple.
easily. Yeah, and they don't have the headaches. Like, like I see so much more corruption in business than I ever have in politics. Like, I mean, I can't imagine if like you had a newspaper reporter that had access to a company on a day-by-day basis. Like, the things that you'd uncover in a company versus things you uncover in the public sector, I think you'd be really surprised
at your own company.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Oh yeah. Especially corporate America. I mean, my gosh, it's just not. There's no comparison. Like some of the things that major corporations get away with today versus public servants. So
I look at it also from a competitive standpoint. I was speaking once at a chamber luncheon, and I said, everybody wants to criticize the politicians or the government, state, federal, whatever, of how they're spending their money, like, or how hard they're working. How hard are you working? And at the time, it was a lunch full of about 200 people, and I said, candidly, I cover a lot of youth sports. How many of you are working as hard as a JV basketball player?
Yeah.
And people were murmuring and whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to jump right to the end. I think it's 10% max. So there's 200 of you, 20 of you are working as hard as a JV basketball player, and he's not paid. We're all paid to do this. And if there's only 20, the other 180 people, why are you even getting paid to do this? Like, why don't you double down and work harder? But even to the 10% that are actually doing it, you're still at the standard of a junior high basketball player that's hoping to be on the team, but he's 10th man down and he hardly ever plays. Look at how hard he works.
Yeah.
And I think, particularly in business, you got a responsibility to step in there and do that. And you watch across all professions, you see it obviously in real estate, but how many people are sort of sticking the flag in the ground and praying?
Oh, a lot.
How many bankers do you see at a chamber lunch that are all like, hey, I'm going to give you a new card, or the insurance guy, or whatever it is, I'm going to give you a new card. What did you actually do at the lunch? Nothing.
Yeah. I agree. It's and like in politics too, like I know we were kind of talking about the pain in politics. I don't mean to dive off into something, but if a lot of those politicians too, it's like, okay, what was the reason for getting in? You've got especially nowadays, it's even getting worse. You've got billionaires or multi-millionaires getting into politics. Well, is that really a good representation? Because we really need a lot of the blue collar people to get into politics, but they're not going to get into politics because the pay sucks.
Yeah, and because they're going to get their head ripped off.
Or like, where do they go? Like, okay, you get a congressman, for instance, that gets in there. All of a sudden, they see these lobbyists. Well, how much is this lobbyist can get paid? And now he's learned the system. The exit plan.
The system.
Yeah, the exit plan is to become a lobbyist. So like, how does that conflict? You've got so many of these career politicians, especially in Congress, that get these campaign donations, do the right thing for that company. Well, wow, now they can work for the company. Like, all of a sudden, a few months later, it's like, okay, like maybe we should like figure out like how to pay these politicians more, and maybe we should figure out like how to just basically cut them out from being able to do that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's an interesting time in our world.
How do you view being family member of an elected official? How do you view when you see him out in the public, either making comments or taking comments?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, because it goes back to like having thick skin. You can't like take it too serious because you catch people sometimes at their worst time. It's just like with a cop. You got somebody. The only people that are going to complain are the people that are angry. You never get a reward. It's not like you're going to get the guy to say, "Hey, Mayor, great job on this." I agree with you. You never go to like a mayor's night out, or you never go to like he goes to one of these
and
events.
Everybody just stands
like,
and
yeah,
applause.
like great job. We came here to support this idea. It's like no, they're just coming here to like
remonstrate.
So it's like I mean, there's plenty of times where and Tom will even admit it, like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking and saying it? But I mean, hey, we're all going to make mistakes in life. I can't tell you how many times I've said the wrong thing, sent the wrong email, called the wrong person at the wrong time, made the wrong comment, chose the wrong tenant. Yeah, for the help. Yeah, so there's so many times that you make a mistake. It's like, at the end of the day, he's doing an incredible job. He's done a great job for that city. So, his heart's in the right place. He wants to, do the right thing for the city of Hammond. So if that's his underlying mission, then, the little micro results that happen because of that are insignificant.
And I think
not always, but
but in general, they are insignificant. And I think people, particularly in Hammond, they want someone to fight for them.
Yeah.
They want somebody, and I don't think, maybe Tom would have a tough time getting elected in Valpo.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Valpo mayor could ever get elected in Hammond. You got to be a lot tougher in that area, and I think he suits his constituents, and mostly I think people trust the authenticity. They say, okay, well, if he's going to be unfiltered, I'm probably going to hear the best and the worst, and I don't feel like it's all packaged.
No, for sure. He's definitely not a politician in that sense. And that it goes back to, I think, an upbringing. It's more of a leadership quality, right? It's not like, there's the career politicians that are very polished. They say the right thing at the right time every time. It's like, okay, do you really trust that guy?
You don't know what it actually means, but it's all the right words.
Yeah, it's always the right thing. He knows how to skate around and not really answer your question. So, or you have the guy like, Tom is unfiltered because, you ask him a question, you're going to get an answer, whether you agree with it or not. He's not going to all of a sudden, spin it into like, was I even talking about that?
Yeah.
What was that? What was it? What question did I even ask him? Because how are we talking about this subject now? So that's one. And I think that's a quality that, I try to exemplify in work is, I always try to tell people what I think and what my opinion is versus like sugarcoating or taking their, like the worst thing you could do sometimes, not all the time, but is to listen to the owner's opinion about how to sell the property or what to do. It's like, you got to trust in yourself. Like, okay, I know I've been in this business for over 20 years now. Like, this is your one and only property. I think I know a little bit more about like how to navigate a transaction or how to like, how to structure this deal or what to do. So I think it goes to like having the self-confidence to, and the drive to know you're trying to do the right thing for the client.
And also knowing it's not an inflated sense of self-confidence. It's just, no, I've done the work. I actually know that. If someone will say something to me about what's transpiring online somewhere, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that person's in Michigan City. They just left that position, and now they're moving over to, LaPorte, and they're doing this, and previously they were in. Like, well, how did you know? Well, I just read all the time.
All the
I
time.
just read.
Yeah.
And you could know. Similarly, hey, what is that area of Winfield doing to redevelop itself? And how is that different from Crown Point? And if you moved that out to Lowell, actually you'd get this, but you would lose that.
Oh, yeah.
And it helps do your homework.
Oh, yeah, especially in, and I started off in the retail division. I was doing Walgreens and CVS stuff, and just to pick up on like traffic patterns, what side of the street to be on, like, boundaries.
Ingress and
egress and like, where do you want to be, in the right, what corner do you want to be on, what are some like, knowing like a railroad track as a boundary, as a mental boundary that people can't, state lines a mental boundary, like bridges are mental boundaries, like how you don't want to be positioned around those things, or like, okay, what side of the street is the morning side of the street, what side's the afternoon side of the street, what side do you need to be on, who are your core competitors, what are their sales doing, like
if you're a bagel place that's going to sell things in the morning, you don't want to be on the afternoon side of the street, no matter how much traffic there is.
Even if there's nothing for sale on that side of the street, like, and that's a great thing about when I was doing CVS deals, is like there was never a corner for sale. It was me knocking on a door, in Hobart. I knocked on the door of, I think she was 80, in her mid 80s, 90 years old, having a conversation, basically saying, hey, I got a golden ticket right here. Like, I understand, like, this is, and sometimes just having an honest conversation. Like, I understand, you don't want to sell, but like, you're never going to have this opportunity again because they're going to go somewhere else, or they're not going to be here in a year. So it's, I don't know, it's, there's so many little intricacies you learn through like through your career and through working with retailers or working with entrepreneurs, or when I got my CCIM designation, and just constantly learning. So you're always trying to learn. Even to this day, I'm looking at a CCIM class. I'm like, oh, that'd be a good thing to learn about. Like, even though I don't do a whole lot of brokerage anymore, I cherry pick my clients, and for the most part I give them off to the guys in the office, but I still want to learn. I still want to know how to do things better. Even if I'm just passing a small tidbit of knowledge on to my staff, it's still better than nothing.
And also, it's just good to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My wife will joke with me sometimes. She's like, why are you watching that show? Like, you don't do any of that stuff. I'm like, but why wouldn't it be just good to learn?
Yeah.
Like, and I'll just be smarter. I don't know when I'll ever use it, but I might bring it up in conversation sometime. But I actually would just prefer to know more stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm the same way. Just always picking up on stuff. Like, it's entertaining. It's better than, better than some of the other junk that's on TV.
If you're going to watch like Entertainment Tonight, or you're going to watch like how it's made, I'd prefer to watch how it's made.
Yeah, I don't need people's opinions.
Yeah, exactly. I don't much prefer people's opinions.
Yeah, I agree.
I got a pretty defined opinion of my own. I don't necessarily need a lot.
Yep, I agree.
How do you? Maybe that's one of the ones I'll close with. But how do you balance being a leader that needs to have your own opinion, and obviously the passion to push it through, with the humility or empathy or whatever characteristic you want to describe that allows you to support them and not only direct them? How do you balance all that?
Oh man, it's a good question. I don't know if I am balancing it properly sometimes, but
maybe that's the first clue, is being honest with.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes I'm doing good, sometimes I'm not so hot.
And they know I don't know the right. This is my first company I've ever started, so it's still a learning curve. We don't have like a set person necessarily in a set place that is like a corporate America. We don't have like, okay, this is your defined list of responsibilities. It's like, no, you've got to be able to like help us out in other aspects. It's like, okay, sometimes you need help with this, and taking the bullet for the team sometimes, and knowing like, okay, and that's part of being a leader, right? You have to like have that humility and know like it's not their fault if you didn't tell them what to do, or if you told them the wrong thing to do, and to recognize like if they made a mistake, well, if I didn't tell them what to do, like how could I expect them to have done not just the right thing, but done the thing correctly sometimes. So to have that humility to know like, okay, well, it's my fault at the end of the day. Like if I'm the leader, if I'm the captain of the ship, if the ship's not, if the ship goes off course, well, it's not because I had the guy that's running the engine room make a mistake. It's because I didn't tell him what to do.
And ultimately, if I want to be the leader, if it goes off course, it's still my bad.
Yep.
Like at the end of the day, you do have to own all the decisions everybody makes.
Yeah, it is at the end of the day.
The upside is you get to make those decisions, but you got to own them all.
Yeah, and that's the liability. That's part of being the owner of the company, the managing broker, is that it's on me. Like it's my license. It's my like lack of something I didn't do, or I get to I'll share in the rewards. It's if they did the right thing, that's great. It's their their baby. If they made a mistake and I didn't tell them what to do, well, it's my fault, too. So it's their fault too sometimes. But don't get me wrong. If I told them what to do and they didn't do it the right way, then it's their fault. But
then you got license to go after.
Yeah, you gotta keep them on their toes still. And I think everyone's on their toes. I'm definitely not afraid to speak my mind and to tell somebody when they messed up and explain like, they know that I've got their back no matter what, but they also know that I'm going to say like, what were you thinking? Like, why did you do that? Like, there's no way we should have handled it that way. Like, you should have done this.
And the challenge sometimes is just they weren't thinking.
Yeah.
If you thought something differently than me, but you actually thought through it all and then went this direction, I'm way more comfortable than if you're like, I don't know, I just really didn't think about it. I'm like, no, we can't have that kind of.
You get emotional.
You gotta think about it.
And that's why it's nice to have like somebody bounce ideas back. I mean, just this morning and yesterday we have a very angry tenant. We execute on the behalf of a landlord, right? So if we're getting in a dispute with a tenant and they're getting ticked off and they're making accusations and you're trading emails back and forth, and like, take a step back, understand from their perspective. They're upset because, of XYZ, and they're upset at the landlord. They're not upset with you. They're upset with you because you're the messenger. It's not you personally. It's nothing that you did. So just take a step back, let them vent, and then let the landlord make the decision. Just make sure that you understand you're the vehicle to help execute the owner's vision and to help mediate the situation. Because sometimes you have to do a lot of mediating that's half the job is mediation, to help try to figure out, a path of least resistance, a path of compromise, a win-win situation, or lose-lose for that matter.
Yeah. Tell me about growing up in a traditional media world. Your dad's obviously got experience on JOB.
Yeah.
You obviously, through politics and your own business, have paid attention to all the media around here and how it's evolved. How do you, as a business owner, you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook,
all of it.
Your website, you're constantly figuring out how to do videos and reels and all these other kind of things. There's probably plenty of people that grew up in a traditional media world that say, oh my God, I hate all that stuff. You either like it or you figure it out, we have to embrace that. But you communicate via all kinds of digital means, or all kinds of means, period. Why'd you embrace that?
It's, I think as part of our company, I'm a big techie.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I'm probably the techiest in our office. I'm the oldest and the one that knows the most about technology, which is very ironic. Is that you too? So, first of all, I love
just had a cough.
right.
Really nothing.
I love what you guys do here. It's very innovative. I love the idea of happy, great news, because the traditional media, in my opinion, I mean, it's slowly dying. I don't think it's ever going to die, but I don't watch the news. I don't let
they're
my
working
kids
hard
watch
at it,
the
though.
Yeah, are they?
No, I mean they're working hard at killing.
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure. I mean, take the Channel 5 news or Channel 7 news. How I could listen to my police scanner and do the same reporting. It's it's so fake to me. It's they're slaves to their advertisers a lot of times. Have you ever heard them criticize the Bears organization?
Yeah. No,
the crappiest organization in all of sports. And then how do you go from talking about the fire or the tragedy, somebody got shot, to oh, here's our puff piece now, and you're all man, that's a tough transition. So it's easy to make that transition to okay, is anybody really watching this? And the Times does a great job of keeping it local with with their stories, and I'm more of a local news guy, and I don't know. It's really easy to I mean, there's just no interest in being part of a national audience, and you get you establish your relationships. You feel comfortable working with certain people, and you see what they do, and I guess I skipped around the answer of just being the kind of techie I am. It's you have to embrace certain technologies and the way that people are absorbing the news these days, right? So
But there had to be somebody in commercial real estate that said, what the heck are you doing all this kind of stuff for? We do meetings and lunches, and you take the guy for drinks and you give him a prospectus. What are you messing around on Instagram for?
Yeah, I think, I don't even know why. Sometimes I've got a great girl in our office that handles all the marketing, and I pay attention to what other companies are doing. You try to stay ahead of the curve. That's the biggest thing I try to do with our company is you got to stay ahead of what everyone else is doing, or you try to see what the big guys are doing and how they're doing things, and we're more nimble, or we can move a lot quicker, so it's easier to get in, start doing things like Matterports, and do 3D renderings and drones, and start to do videos. You see what others do nationally. I think that's a big thing, is I pay attention to what's happening nationally and how other people's marketing efforts are going, and I just absorb what others are doing. It's just the same thing I pick up with entrepreneurs. You pick up things what people are doing nationally, and you're oh, that's a great idea. I love the way they're showing this property and how they're presenting it. So you gotta be ready for the next generation and how they're gonna absorb the media. Otherwise, what's the sense?
Yeah.
Like I said, anybody can stick a sign in the yard, but how are you getting that next listing? How are you getting to the client quicker and faster and, with less expense, So,
You're probably also thinking, hey, if I just go by what a commercial broker is doing in this particular space, you may be more advanced than they are already. And if that's the only standard you have, you're basically like, okay, well, I'm good.
absolutely.
No, you're good relative.
Relative, yeah.
But, we were just, it was mentioned earlier, we were out at NDU yesterday. Northwest Indiana doesn't have a TV station. So there's a different level those people compete out there or in Chicago or down in Indy when there's a TV market.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a much greater level of competition. Here, because it's not here, doesn't mean you don't have to strive for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to ultimately pick areas from someplace else and say, if I'm at the leading edge, how are we going to stay that way and put more distance behind us?
Well, that's a great point. Chicago, the population's growing, which means more money, more opportunities for realtors. So, like, would I be ready if one of the big 3 or 5 firm comes out here and plants its flag? Am I ready for like that kind of competition? And I would say we're way ahead of that curve. So it's not
you're not resting on your laurels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just thinking, well, hey, nobody does this in this region, so I don't need to.
Yep.
You're like, no, if they're doing it and it's actually effective,
we keep the competition out too. At the same time, so we cooperate with a lot of the big firms up there because one, sometimes they don't want to drive, but B, because we're the one of the market leaders and we know the market better, and a lot of those guys do have they've got great ethics. Some of the guys that like the CBREs or JLLs that I've worked with in the past, they recognize, hey, I need a local expert down there. I'm not just going to do the job just to do the job. They're really like trying to help work the deal for their client and do it in the right way. So
they've got the same kind of integrity that you have, so it makes a great fit.
Yep.
Where are we in this economic cycle?
I think we're definitely in a recession, which is like they say in CNBC all the time, you can't fight the Fed, right? So they've been saying it for months and months and months. They're getting what they want. Things are slowing down. I think next year is going to be a pretty, first I'll talk nationally and then I'll talk, our little micro economy here. I think nationally is going to get a lot. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think this holiday season is going to be interesting to see how sales shake out for some of these nationals. I think we're just seeing how the closures are going to happen. You look at some of the major office markets around the U.S., they have not got hit yet. I know people are saying, oh, look, there's vacancy. No, like these Fortune 500 companies have lease agreements, 3, 5, 10 years out. These things are really going to start, you think about the COVID effect and work from home. There's definitely been a shift back to in-office, but it's still mostly
dramatically less than it was.
Yeah. So it's not gone away, but it's definitely a hybrid model. So now as these leases are rolling off in these major U.S. markets, they're not renewing, or they're renewing for 30, 50% of the space they need. So that has not hit the market. It's not like,
just because of COVID, everybody ripped up their lease and walked away.
You couldn't, unless you're Elon Musk, you don't just walk away from your lease agreement. So I think the impact of the office market's really going to be felt next year and the year after. In fact, I've been tracking some stocks that have major investments in some of the major markets, and get on our database to like look at what the occupancy is, and I'm like, oh man, it's great that they're 90-some% occupied.
Yeah.
But you have an occupied building means that you have a fully occupied building paying rent. Doesn't mean that like
there's anybody
in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like when that lease rolls off, they're not getting renewed, or they're getting renewed a smaller square footage and then a smaller price. So we peaked a long time ago on some of these office properties. So there's going to be a major setback. There's going to be a lot of defaults on loans. There's going to be a lot of some of these office REITs that are going to get hit really hard. Retail's the same way. Some of these major retail REITs are going to get hit hard. How that impacts the overall economy is going to get hit pretty hard. Some of the bigger banks are impacted by them. So you'll see some major impact nationally. Locally, we're great. I mean, it's we've got low inventory. We've got we're the beneficiaries of Chicago. Unfortunately, what I predicted years ago when the office market started to slow down, they started to go the hybrid work model. You started seeing people, before it was called the value hunters that moved out here. We've had more like yuppies that I know have moved out here for the same things that we talked about, the quality of life, the schools, the natural resources that we have, and they're still in Chicago. They're going to Chicago 2-3 days a week, but there's only so much you can work at home, in my opinion, for the most part. So I thought what was going to happen is some of these, these big, let's just take an Uber, for example, as they went to a hybrid work model, which is what they're doing now, they'll shrink down that Chicago market, that Chicago office space in downtown. If they shrunk it down by 50%, well, then they pop up little satellites all over the suburbs for their employees, or they go to these co-ops. I mean, that's great for us. It's not good for downtown Chicago, but it's great for Northwest Indiana. And there's a lot of companies that are doing that. Especially from the work from home model too. Some of these workers want to be out. They have to be out.
Yeah.
So we've been great. We've been we've got the mills are pumping out steel, the BP's pumping out gas, and we've got all these people from Chicago that are moving out here. So that all these homes growing means you got more insurance needs to get sold. It means more real estate that needs to get bought. It means you got more people that want to invest in their local financial advisor. So you've got all these more restaurants you need. So it's been great for us. As the population grows, as businesses come out here, as you get more core jobs, it's been great. And we haven't been like that speculative market where, with the exception of what they're doing on Mississippi. Yeah, we don't really see the excess, but we never see the major downturn. So even during 2009, to whenever the Great Recession ended, we never, we weren't impacted as bad as, you look at like a Phoenix, Arizona, that kind of market. They were building homes by the thousands a month, and then when that market crashes, it's crashing at 25, 30, 40% home values. Well, we don't see that kind because we're not building at the same level. So, and it happens with almost everything. Retail, we don't have a whole lot of speculative retail. That industrial stuff that they built on Mississippi was probably the first time we've ever had since Becknell did the I-65 and 61st project. That's the first major speculative industrial deals we've done. So, remains to be seen how well they'll do, but it's a great product, great position. So
I'll ask you one more question, just because it's such a prominent property. Let's say the Whites call you and say, Aaron, what are we going to put at 65 and 30? What do you tell them?
Oh man, I can't give that up. I've got my ideas. It's a great site. Obviously, just finally.
We're not going to break them here today.
No. I've got not going to break any of my ideas for the site, but I think it's a great opportunity for Northwest Indiana. So we're excited to see what ends up happening there.
A lot of things ahead.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing a little stories and insight in how you got where you're at, the thinking behind it, the kind of business you do. But thanks a heck of a lot for coming.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thank you.
Sure.